So I did an earlier video about this Rustoleum Deck Restore material. This was the color I had it done because I was doing this trailer deck. Now on that particular application I wanted a non-slip surface. It kind of matched what I was spray painting a lot of the stuff on the trailer, and I was putting it on a pretty rough finished piece of plywood that was pressure treated plywood. It's $50 a sheet stuff, believe it or not. And the reason is because it's going to be kind of a harsh weather thing, and walking on, I wanted something non-slip. Previously, I had used polyurethane paint on the deck of a trailer, and I kind of test this stuff on decks of trailers before I put it on the deck of the backwoods cabin that I'm building, because it's a lower stakes gamble to see how something turns out. So now I'm trying another product, and it is what it is. So you're going to see how this is turning out. Now, this is again from Lowe's. Home Depot may have this, or a comparable product, or Ace Hardware might. Cedar tone, which means what you really get this for is you put it on regular pine or cedar. It's a little bit of a stain, a little bit of a preservative. Kind of a weird mix of water and oil base, okay? So it's an oil, but it's a water cleanup type stuff. And when you put it on, like a really white wood, like a really pale cedar, or on regular pine, it'll kind of color match your pressure treated stuff. But I'm going to say kind of, okay? So, but the other thing it does is it's going to be a non-textured finish, where this stuff has texture and fill. Although when it dries, it does shrink enough that where some of these cracks will start to show again, and you would have to throw additional layers on to really seal something up. This other kind of stain stuff isn't really made to restore anything, so it doesn't really fill, and it doesn't totally cover either because it's not paint and it's not meant to. So if you have printing on your studs or something like that, realize that's going to stay there. So let's say if you wanted to use standard untreated 2x4s as your decking material, and you wanted to kind of make it look like cedar and put this preservative on there, you can do that because you get this thicker 2x4 material for less money than what you would pay for thinner cedar. But one of the things you're going to get along with that is some of these lumber marks and printing and stuff, because this was kind of meant to be the wood that doesn't show, the wood that stays inside walls. And so you're going to have a lot of this on here. Even though this was premium, it's not decorative, okay? So adding the stain to it doesn't seem to fix that. The other thing I've run into is using a relatively decent sprayer. In putting this on, it kind of blotches, okay? It's not made to hide. It's not a paint. It just kind of colors the wood, makes it so that if you're mixing plain lumber with pressure treated or cedar, that it's going to blend your colors and make it where the differences in the wood don't stand out as much. The other thing is it adds a little oil, a little preservative to wood, which is normally intended to be on the inside of a structure, to not be exposed to the air and sunlight, where under normal circumstances, when plain unfinished lumber gets exposed to a lot of air and sunlight, it's going to turn gray. Kind of like this 2x4 did. It's on this sawhorse, it kind of pales out, it turns gray. Now some people like that finish, but it deteriorates a lot faster than if you would have some kind of finish on it. The reason I want to put a preservative on this, but I wasn't quite going to spring for the pressure treated stuff, is that this is going to be supporting a clear plastic roof on a porch, which is kind of a sun porch on an all-weather type of a situation, where I got to have enough structural integrity to where in the winter it's going to support a little snow load, but it's also in a place with very long days in the summer, and I don't want it to fade out and turn gray when everything else there is going to be kind of either cedar or a fire-resistant metals finish, which I'll be showing in other videos. So in showing the results of the first application of this, all we're doing is we're darkening this wood a little bit so it matches cedar or pressure treated a little better than pale heartwood lumber. It doesn't fill anything the way the Deck Restore does. It does not totally change the color the way the Deck Restore does. But it does penetrate the wood perhaps a little bit more. The other thing is it can be applied with a sprayer, where the Deck Restore cannot be applied effectively with a sprayer. It would probably destroy a sprayer to put this on. The other thing is this is never going to have a peeling issue, where this has a reputation of having a peeling issue. Again, with the service life being rated at only 4 years for exterior wall type application, or 2 years for flat surface deck or floor type applications outdoors, it's the type of thing that you may be redoing from time to time. But I think if you dutifully, if you're diligent about redoing it year after year, I think you're going to accumulate a more durable, solid finish over time. So we'll show a little bit of the spray application on this. So with the Ryobi sprayer, we're going to spray this out until we get a mist built up. Sometimes it helps to shake this thing. There we go. And now we've got a mist built up. Again, this is just putting a preservative on the wood. Technically, we're not painting it, we're just applying a preservative. It goes on light, and then it dries a little darker. It also dries a little splotchy. I've shaken it, I've stirred it, I made sure that whatever pigment was in it got thoroughly mixed. But it's not necessarily a rhyme or reason to how it's going to darken or cover or look once it's dried. And we'll see that in the next segment. Here you can see when it dries, it's still, kind of blotchy, but it'll work better. It's got a UV protectant on there. It's going to hold its color a little bit longer than if we were to use plain heartwood. And if you're going to mix, let's say, salvage lumber with pressure treated with fresh heartwood lumber, this is one of the ways you can kind of get everything to even out, especially when you're mixing salvage lumber and maybe wood from different types of trees. You mix it in a little bit of salvage wood, a little bit of cedar on a project, and you still want it to stay on budget and look good. You want it to look kind of custom. At 20 bucks a gallon, the application on these, I would say I used about $3-4 worth of it on here. And when you look at the cost effectiveness of using this to, let's say, make your regular lumber into the equivalent of pressure treated, kind of a gamble. Okay, these are $3 studs. I would pay a little over $4. I pay a little over $5 for pressure treated like this. So you figure it's going to cost about 40 cents a stud or so to treat it yourself. Plus, it depends on where you're at for labor. Okay, you can put a $10 an hour guy on this stuff, and it'll get all these done in a half hour or something like that. A half hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, somewhere in there. If you got a $10 an hour guy doing a larger batch, it's just a matter of spraying more of them. So there's an economy of volume that happens if, let's say, you start laying out a couple hundred 2x4s and spraying them yourself, as opposed to buying pressure treated. Would the pressure treated stuff outlast this? Yeah, I think it would. When pressure treated is in contact with the ground, it's going to outlast this stuff. So it is what it is. It's your own choice on whether you want to use this stuff. I'm not going to endorse it very heavily. None of this was donated to me or given to me for any kind of consideration of endorsement. This is all stuff that I bought with my own money at Lowe's. So it's the since 1841, this is UV protectant finish versus a Rustoleum Deck and Concrete Restore. they both have their own purposes. That's why I'm using both on different aspects of the same project.